Welcome to another edition of Business Today, where we discuss in depth the business world and its dealings. Today's program, we are going to actually focus on a very interesting topic. We are going to be focusing on emotional intelligence. To do this, we have brought on the CEO of Resilience Within Private Limited. We'll learn a little bit about him before we have a chat.
Mr. Sahan Dharmatilleke is the CEO of Resilience Within Private Limited, the first Sri Lankan to be certified as a mindfulness-based emotional intelligence teacher by the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, designed at Google by world experts in neuroscience, mindfulness, and emotional intelligence. Mr. Sahan holds a master's degree in Business Administration UK, bachelor's in Business Management First Class, and is a certified mindfulness-based emotional intelligence teacher USA, a former global brand manager and a country brand manager for a leading MNC. Mr. Sahan's vision to transform 1 billion lives through emotional intelligence inspired him to form Resilience Within and create a global network of like-minded coaches, scientists, psychologists, and management consultants to provide scientifically proven tools and techniques to reduce stress, improve emotional intelligence, and promote overall well-being.
And Mr. Sahan Dharmatilleke is in the studio with us. Welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And of course, now talking about the current situation, I think this is one of the most important topics, emotional intelligence. Of course, before we talk about this particular topic, we have to talk about the company, yes. Resilience Within. Can you tell us a little bit about the company, Mr. Dharmatilleke?
So we formed this several years back, and it's not something which I run alone. It's a group of individuals who are passionate about emotional intelligence, resilience, stress management, and it's something that we all need, right? Irrespective whether we are a CEO or a janitor, we all need it. And as someone who started off his career, I started off my career as a management trainee for a well-known multinational here in Sri Lanka, but ended my career as a global brand manager. And with that insights, the pain, the pleasure, the sacrifices I had to make, all that contributed to forming Resilience Within. And as the folks at home would have heard, it's not organizational consultants or management consultants, it's psychologists, psychiatrists, scientists. So it's a group of individuals who are genuinely passionate about resilience, emotional intelligence, and stress management.
Company is aptly named Resilience Within. I
Yes,
think everything is in the name. Now, of course, like you said, you had a successful corporate career. You were a global brand manager. What made you initiate this transition to this particular field? How did you actually learn about this particular field as well?
Yes. So by the age of 27, I had started taking drugs for high blood pressure. So I know what stress is like, and I've figured out how to cope with it through various means. And when I started my stint as a global brand manager, I noticed that I got the opportunity to mingle with individuals who are far more senior to me. Got the opportunity to travel across the globe, and I noticed something common. Irrespective of our designation, we are all stressed, overwhelmed, and I was too. But I was trying to figure out how I could come out of it. So this was the trigger point. So if I am suffering, if my bosses are suffering, if my boss's bosses are suffering, then someone needs to do something. So initially, my thoughts were, why isn't governments doing something about it? Why aren't non-profits doing something about it? Then I thought, I'm actually not doing anything either. So that helped me to take that leap of faith. So
that was the trigger point.
Yes.
And now talking about, you mentioned something very important. A lot of people are thinking about how I can manage stress.
Yes.
Now, of course, there must be some real-world examples of companies like you actually existing and solving a couple of issues.
True.
So can you elaborate us something along that lines?
Sure. So I pretty much belong to the corporate sector. I'm a product of this corporate space. So it actually was quite surprising to me when I found out that there are global organizations like Google, SAP, Goldman Sachs, Ernst & Young, Aetna, the insurance giant, all these organizations and other organizations like Facebook, Apple, all these organizations focus on employee well-being. So usually when it comes to employee well-being, we all know about physical well-being, right? So when I was growing up in the sense, growing up in the corporate world, it was very common. You have to work out at least 30 minutes a day. Instead of taking the lift, you take the stairs. So that's very common. But unfortunately, no one pays you to build muscle, right? No one pays you to have a slim body. They pay you for this. And therefore, resilience, emotional intelligence, cognitive capacities are essential for our day-to-day work and to increase productivity. By building muscle, your productivity doesn't go up, right? So it's essential that individuals focus on their mental well-being, and corporates can do a lot, and this has been done not only by one organization but many organizations, and there's a significant return on investment as well. So if I were to elaborate on that, since I also come from the corporate sector, if there's no return on investment, we don't even want to discuss it. So Aetna is one of the Fortune 50 organizations in the world, a global giant when it comes to insurance. Their program, the employee well-being program, their mindfulness, emotional intelligence program, the return on investment is around 1,200%. So every dollar you spend, return is $12 because healthcare costs are going down, productivity is going up. Then SAP, which launched their program quite recently, over 11,000 individuals have taken part in over 20 countries, right? And there's another 10,000, if I remember right, in waiting. So there's a lot of interest within the organization now. So their return on investment is 200%. So this is productivity increases, costs coming down, especially healthcare costs. And within the organization, when your mental well-being is looked after, when you are resilient, when you are compassionate towards your subordinates, your team members, obviously it's a engaged organization. It's an organization where you actually want to live in or work in. And in such organizations, employee turnover goes down. And employee turnover, is a big issue these days.
As long as your employees are happy to be there and the productivity goes up, it is very beneficial. Now, talking about resilience coming back, what is a typical program like? How do you actually approach a company and figure it out and then actually, execute the program itself?
Yes. So resilience within is unique because not only do we work with corporates, we actually work with non-profits, governments, medical professionals. We coach doctors, nurses, paramedics, not only in Sri Lanka but across the globe. Even in Sri Lanka, I launched a program at the Valikada prison. So if it works for prisoners who are on death row and life sentence, it's definitely going to work for corporate individuals. So usually we run separate programs. So the Search Inside Yourself program, which originated at Google, which brings together neuroscience, mindfulness and emotional intelligence into one platform. That program online, we launched the online program quite recently. So that's 6 weeks, followed up by a 28-day challenge and completed with a capstone. So it's a huge program. Then we have emotional intelligence and stress management training programs, which could last 30 hours or 20 hours. And there are also awareness sessions. So in Sri Lanka, we are very used to having awareness sessions. So someone wants a tick mark. Okay, we've done a resilience program, we've done an emotional intelligence training program, we've done X program, Y program. Coming from a neuroscientific background, I can tell you those are good to do stuff. They actually won't have much of an impact because the human brain is plastic. So there's the science term is actually called neuroplasticity. So what we think, what we pay attention to, and what we do actually changes the brain. So a brain can actually be changed by us. And that requires at least 6 to 8 weeks of work.
Oh.
So you and I know how difficult it is to learn a language, how difficult it is to learn how to swim. We don't do this within an hour, right? We don't throw a kid into the water. Okay, 1 hour training, you read a book, you're now able to swim. So the same rule applies with emotional intelligence, resilience, stress management. You have to do the work. And especially if an organization is wanting to implement something of this nature, the leadership team needs to embody it first. All the other organizations which I mentioned, like top-notch organizations, it starts with the leader. Someone in the director board or all the directors need to get involved. If you don't embody it, no one's going to believe you.
Yeah. I think in Sri Lanka there is a lot of misconception or stigma attached to the word depression.
Yes.
And of course, mental health is not some subject a lot of people discuss. So in your experience, you have a lot of experience dealing with global companies. How does Sri Lanka rank? How does Sri Lankan companies rank?
So last year, in 2019, Gallup released their Global Emotions Report. And they ranked the most stressed countries in the world. US was number 7. Can you guess who number 6 was? Sri Lanka. So it was Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka was ranked the 6th most stressed country in the world. And this is not one report. The previous year, Bloomberg did a study and we were ranked 27th. But the Gallup survey was conducted across 150 countries, 150,000 participants. So Sri Lanka is a stressful nation, let's agree. And number 2, even if we look at our universities, there's only a handful of research papers around stress from universities, among university students. We know that around 40% of our university students are highly distressed. There's a study done in Colombo University, 9% of our university students suffer from a mental disorder, a severe mental disorder, mind you. So my question to you is, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really concerning. So there is, in terms of a country, if you look at a corporate, it's the employees. In a country, it's the citizenry that's affected. So, apart from everything we have business today, but economy effects is affected as well. So now in this current climate where there is a pandemic out here, everybody is at home, everybody's lives have turned upside down. How can people deal with it now? And of course, everybody's, they used to be at offices with their friends, and of course now some people are home alone. How is this going to affect us?
So it's going to be tough. There's something called Zoom fatigue, because as human beings, around 70 to 80% our communication is non-verbal. So I can see your facial expressions, you can see my physical movements, and that actually helps us connect. And this connection, whether we like it or not, irrespective of our designation, we are human beings first. We are social creatures, we are emotional creatures. Therefore, this connection is essential. So my recommendation to anyone who's working from home, especially a leader, at least once a week or a couple of times a week, have a video call. Because I've noticed that, especially in Sri Lanka, we don't have video calls. We actually we use Microsoft Teams or Zoom, but we don't use the video feature. So physically meeting someone is 100% a big tick mark. But
as long as you can do the social guidelines.
But if you can't physically meet, at least have a video conference call. And when you have a conversation, genuinely ask, how are you feeling?
And also now talking about individuals, corporate employees, maybe self-entrepreneurs, how can they actually develop their muscles of emotional intelligence?
Yes, definitely.
Now, of course, you can do, cardio for your health. How can you actually have an exercise to develop your mental muscles?
Yeah, so that's great. The fact that you use the term the mental muscle, it is a muscle because your brain is malleable, it is plastic. So the more work that you put in, more results you'll get. So especially for an entrepreneur, a senior leader, know that the pandemic is eternal. It's not eternal, right? Though it might seem that it's eternal, it's not. We faced similar situations, especially during the Second World War. Millions of individuals died within a few years. Then we had the Black Plague. So it's nothing new for humanity. It might be new to us, but for humanity, it's nothing new. So one thing to note is cultivate this positive mindset. So Dr. Martin Seligman, who's the father of modern positive psychology, talks about this positive mindset and a pessimistic mindset. So a pessimistic mindset means I failed maths, I am stupid. So you take it personally. Whereas you say, I actually didn't study for maths, that's why I failed. Which doesn't mean I'm going to fail English or Sinhala or Buddhism or Christianity or whatever. So cultivate a positive mindset. And let me share a little story that Stoic philosophers used to give their students in ancient Greece, right?
Yeah.
So they would say, it's up to you to go to the market to buy the bow. It's up to you to go to the market to buy the arrow. It's up to you to string the bow and arrow, or the bow together, right? So you tie the string to the bow, and it's up to you to aim at the target. And it's up to you to let go of the arrow. But it's not up to you to hit the target, because there could be a gush of wind. If the target was a rabbit, it could jump. So it's essential to have targets, but make sure that you do the processes. What needs to be done today, simply do it and let go.
So what's within your control.
Definitely.
Of course, what's within, outside your control,
Yes.
you can't really stress about.
So the output is never in our control. We might have this impression, yes, everything under the sun is in my control, but that's the human mind playing tricks, right? Most of the things in our life is not in our control, right? So acknowledge that, but put in the work. So cultivate this growth mindset. And I'm pretty sure Sri Lanka is a resilient nation. Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, corporate leaders have been resilient. We've successfully overcome so many challenges, which half of the nations in the world have not faced, right? So I think Sri Lanka can definitely come on top.
That is a very positive note to end on. That was Mr. Sahan Dharmatilleke, the CEO of Resilience Within Private Limited. Great chat. Thank you for being with us here today. And with that, we will wind up today's edition of Business Today. Thank you for joining us.